The emergency council chamber erupted into what could only be described as organized panic. Admiral Kross slammed 3 of his appendages against the metal table, the sound echoing like gunshots through the vaulted space. "You want us to do what?" he bellowed, his scales shifting from deep purple to an angry crimson. Ambassador Thalen remained perfectly still, her expression unreadable. She had seen this reaction before. 17 times, in fact, across 12 different star systems. Nobody ever believed her at first. "I want you to abort the invasion," she repeated calmly, folding her hands on the table. "Cancel it. Call off. Pretend you never heard of Earth. Delete their coordinates from your navigation systems, and never, ever point a weapon in their direction." Commander Vex laughed. Actually laughed. It was a wet, gurgling sound that made Thalen's skin crawl, but she kept her composure. "Let me get this straight," Vex said, wiping moisture from his breathing slits. "You flew 300 light years to warn us about humans, those little pink things that barely figured out fusion reactors? The species that still uses combustion engines for transportation? Those humans?" "Yes," Thalen said flatly. "Those humans." General Morvik leaned forward, her 4 eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Ambassador Thalen, your reputation precedes you. You have served the Galactic Council with distinction for 40 cycles. So please, explain to me why you sound absolutely insane right now." Thalen took a deep breath. Here came the hard part. 3 months ago, the Draxian Empire attacked a human mining colony on the edge of their territory. It was a minor settlement. 2,000 inhabitants. The Draxians sent a standard occupation force. 12 warships. 4,000 soldiers. They expected the humans to surrender within hours. And Kross demanded. The humans destroyed every single ship. Killed every single soldier. Then they tracked the fleet's origin point, traveled 200 light years into Draxian space, and systematically dismantled 17 military installations before the Draxian High Command even realized they were under attack. Silence fell across the chamber like a heavy blanket. Vex cleared his throat. That's impossible. The Draxians have shields that can withstand." "The humans didn't care about shields," Thalen interrupted. "They used kinetic weapons. Pieces of metal accelerated to near light speed. No energy signature. No warning. Just mass and velocity. Simple physics turned into absolute devastation." Morvik's scales rippled with what Thalen recognized as nervous energy. "But surely the Draxians retaliated?" "Oh, they tried," Thalen said, and for the first time, a hint of dark amusement crept into her voice. "They sent their entire third fleet. 240 ships. The pride of their military. Want to know what happened?" Nobody answered, but Thalen could see the fear starting to bloom in their eyes. The humans destroyed them in 47 minutes. Not hours. Minutes. They used the debris from the first wave of ships as ammunition against the second wave. They turned the Draxians' own vessels into weapons. When the battle ended, there were exactly 0 Draxian survivors and 0 human casualties. Kross sat down heavily, his earlier bravado evaporating like water on hot stone. "How many human ships participated in this battle?" 6. 6? Vex's voice cracked. "Against 240? "Against 240, Thalen confirmed. "And before you ask, no, these weren't massive dreadnoughts. They were destroyer-class vessels. Small, fast, and apparently piloted by absolute maniacs who treated interstellar warfare like some kind of competitive sport." Commander Vex pulled up a holographic display, his tentacles moving frantically across the controls. "What happened after? Did the Draxians surrender?" "The Draxians no longer exist as a functioning empire," Thalen said quietly. "The humans didn't stop. They systematically targeted every military installation, every weapons factory, every shipyard. They left the civilian populations completely untouched, but dismantled the entire military infrastructure in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Morvik whispered. The Draxian Empire spanned 40 systems. 42. Actually, Thalen corrected. And yes, 3 weeks. The humans called it Operation Righteous Fury. Their media called it Tuesday. Kross stared at her, his expression somewhere between horror and disbelief. You're telling me they reduced a galactic superpower to rubble as casually as we schedule mealtimes? I'm telling you that humans are frighteningly good at violence, Thalen said. Their entire evolutionary history is one long story of turning everything around them into weapons. Rocks, sticks, fire, atoms. They split their own reality just to make bigger explosions. They poison their own atmosphere testing weapons they hoped they would never use. They are creative, adaptable, and absolutely relentless when threatened. The chamber fell silent again. Outside the windows, Thalen could see the fleet preparing for departure. 300 ships, ready to conquer what they assumed was a primitive civilization. Finally, Kross spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. What do you recommend? Thalen stood up, gathering her data tablets. Send a diplomatic envoy. Offer trade agreements. Share technology. Become their friends. Because I promise you, Admiral, you do not want humans as your enemies. Admiral Kross stared at the holographic star map floating above the council table, his primary eyes fixed on the small blue planet labeled Earth. His secondary eyes kept darting to Ambassador Thalen, searching for any sign that this was some elaborate joke. It wasn't. Let me play devil's advocate here, General Morvick said, though her voice lacked its earlier confidence. Perhaps the Draxians were simply unprepared. They grew complacent after centuries of dominance. We are not the Draxians. Our technology is superior, our tactics refined, our soldiers better trained. Thalen raised one eyebrow. That's exactly what the Vrynn Collective said. The Vrynn? Vex's breathing slits flared. When did the Vrynn engage with humans? 2 weeks ago, Thalen replied, pulling up another holographic display. They didn't invade. They made what they thought was a calculated move. They captured a human exploration vessel. 12 crew members. The Vrynn planned to study them, learn their weaknesses, perhaps use them as leverage. Kross felt his blood temperature dropping. What happened? The humans sent one ship, Thalen said. A diplomatic frigate. Unarmed, according to all scans. It approached the Vrynn command station, broadcasting messages of peaceful negotiation. The Vrynn commander, feeling generous, allowed them to dock. Commander Vex leaned forward. And 20 minutes later, the entire command station went dark. Life support failed. Communications dead. When the Vrynn reinforcements arrived, they found every single guard unconscious, every security system disabled, and all 12 human prisoners gone. The diplomatic team had somehow smuggled weapons that didn't register on any scanner, breached a maximum security detention level, and escaped without firing a single shot. How? Morvick demanded. Thalen's expression turned grim. Nobody knows. The humans won't say. But here's the terrifying part. Before they left, they downloaded the entire Vrynn military database. Ship specifications, patrol routes, defensive positions, everything. Then they sent a single message to the Vrynn High Council. The chamber waited. Touch our people again, and we'll show you what we can do when we're not being diplomatic. Kross felt something cold settle in his chest cavity. The Vrynn are withdrawing all forces from human space, aren't they? They dismantled 3 border outposts yesterday, Thalen confirmed. They're pretending it's routine maintenance. It's not. General Morvick stood abruptly, her armor plates clattering. This is absurd. We're talking about a species that still has poverty, crime. They fight among themselves constantly. Their planet is divided into competing factions. Yes, Thalen agreed. And do you know what they call that period of their history when they were most divided? When they had 2 major factions pointing nuclear weapons at each other for decades. Silence. They call it the Cold War. And you know why it stayed cold? Because both sides understood that if it went hot, everybody lost. They developed something called mutually assured destruction. They were willing to end their entire civilization rather than surrender to each other. Let that sink in. They pointed planet-killing weapons at themselves as a negotiation tactic. Commander Vex made a sound like escaping gas. That's not strategy, that's insanity. That's humanity, Thalen corrected. And here's what keeps me awake at night. They eventually made peace with each other. Ancient enemies who nearly destroyed their own world learned to cooperate. Now imagine what happens when you give them a common external threat. They unite, Kross whispered. They unite, Thalen confirmed. Every petty difference forgotten. Every resource mobilized. Every creative, violent, brilliant mind focused on a single goal. Your destruction. The Admiral pulled up Earth's file again, scrolling through the data. Agricultural output. Industrial capacity. Population distribution. Everything looked so ordinary. So unremarkable. How did they advance so quickly? He asked. Our intelligence suggested they were centuries away from being a threat. Because humans don't wait for technology to be perfected, Thalen explained. They use whatever works right now and improve it later. They went from their first powered flight to landing on their moon in 66 years. They don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. Morvik was studying the display now, her earlier aggression replaced by calculating analysis. What are their weaknesses? Every species has vulnerabilities. Thalen smiled sadly. Their greatest weakness is also their greatest strength. They care deeply about their own. Attack one human colony, you've attacked all of humanity. They will spend tremendous resources to save a single individual. They'll cross hostile space to retrieve bodies for burial. They have a saying, no one gets left behind. That sounds like exploitable sentiment, Vex offered weakly. The Krell hegemony thought so too, Thalen said. They took human hostages, thinking it would prevent retaliation. The humans responded by inventing entirely new categories of weapons specifically designed to eliminate threats while preserving hostage lives. Directed energy pulses that shut down nervous systems without causing permanent damage. Precision munitions that could hit a target the size of your smallest appendage from orbit. They turned their weakness into innovation. Kross made his decision. He could see it in the faces of his commanders. The fear, the uncertainty, the dawning realization that they were prey animals staring at apex predators. Cancel the invasion, he said quietly. Admiral? Morvik looked shocked. You heard me, General. Cancel it. Recall the fleet. We're not going anywhere near human space. He turned to Thalen. Draft a diplomatic message. Include offers of trade, technology exchange, whatever they want. Make it clear we come in peace. Thalen nodded, relief evident in her features. A wise choice, Admiral. As the commanders filed out, already barking orders into their communication devices, Kross remained seated, staring at the small blue planet. Ambassador, he called out. One last question. Thalen paused at the doorway. What happens to empires that do attack humanity? She turned back, her expression unreadable. They become cautionary tales. Stories we tell to prevent others from making the same mistake. She paused. You should feel fortunate, Admiral. Today, you didn't become a story. You became the smart one who listened. After she left, Kross sat alone in the darkness, watching Earth rotate peacefully on his display. Somewhere down there, billions of humans were going about their lives, completely unaware that they had just avoided a war. Or perhaps more accurately, that someone else had avoided becoming their next lesson. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.